You know, when we hear words like death and resurrection from the Bible, our minds usually jump straight to the Easter story, right? We think of it as this single, incredible, historical event. But what if there's more to it? What if the original language of the scripture is telling a totally different story, one that's less about a moment in history and way more about a personal transformation that can happen inside us right now?
I mean, really think about that for a second. What if these huge, powerful concepts are actually a kind of map, a guide that describes this profound internal journey from a state of spiritual darkness to one of brilliant, enlightening truth? That's the big question we're going to dive into today, and we're going to use the original text as our guide.
All right, so first things first. To even start this conversation, we have to kind of press pause on our usual idea of what death means. Because in the Bible, this word is often used to describe not a biological end, but a spiritual state of being.
And the word we really need to zoom in on here is the Greek term Thanatos. Now sure, it can mean physical death, but its deeper, more profound use in the scripture points to a condition of the soul. It's a state of being separated from truth, from that divine light. It's less about a one-time event and so much more about the spiritual environment you're living in.
And you see this pop up in the scripture, right? Take this famous line from the Apostle Paul. He isn't just saying that sin leads to your physical end. He's describing a spiritual reality, that a state of sin is a state of thanatos. It is, by its very nature, a spiritual death, a separation from life-giving truth.
So let's just lay it out, crystal clear. On one side, you've got physical death. It's a biological end, a single event. But on the other side, you have thanatos, this spiritual death, and that's described as a state of being. It's a condition that's all about spiritual ignorance, about living in darkness. It's not about being in a coffin, it's about being in the dark, spiritually speaking. And just look at how Matthew puts it here. He literally equates the region and shadow of death, that's our word Thanos, with dwelling in darkness. So the fix isn't resuscitation, it's illumination. A great light dawns on the people in this state. Okay, so this leads to the big question. If spiritual death is just darkness, how do you get to the light?
Well, that brings us to the action part of this whole thing, the verb that describes how you get out of that state of thanatos, and that word is Egeiro. As we're about to see, this little word is the key that unlocks the entire concept of resurrection.
Egeiro is, well, it's a fascinating word. It's incredibly flexible in Greek. It can mean something as simple as waking up from a nap, or something as profound as being roused to action, or even being raised up from the dead. And this versatility is everything when it comes to understanding its spiritual meaning. Now this is what's so cool. The Bible builds a metaphor using this one word. It starts super simple. Egeiro is used when Joseph wakes up from a dream. Then it gets a little deeper. It's used for rising from sickness, which is kind of like a death-like state. And finally, it reaches its most powerful meaning, to raise the nekros, the physically dead. Do you see the pattern here? From sleep to sickness to death, Egeiro is always about being raised from a lower state of awareness to a higher one.
Okay, so this is where the pieces really start to click together. If death is a state of spiritual ignorance, and Egeiro is the act of awakening, then resurrection isn't really about the body at all. It's about the mind. It's about light breaking into the darkness.
I mean, just think about all the people that Jesus healed. The sick, the blind who couldn't see, the deaf who couldn't hear. The scriptures are presenting these not just as physical problems, but as powerful symbols for our own internal spiritual conditions. Each one of them represents a kind of spiritual ignorance, a part of our perception that is dead to the truth. And the final result of Egeiro, this rising up, is Anastasis. That's the Greek word for resurrection. But when you look at it this way, Anastasis isn't some future event we're all waiting for. It is the awakening of our perception right now. It's that moment your consciousness is roused by the light of truth, the moment your spiritual eyes and ears finally swing open. This really lays out the whole transformation, side by side. On the left, you've got this state of being that's defined by darkness, by ignorance, by a dead perception. But on the right, you have the resurrected state, and that is all about light, knowledge of the truth, and having your eyes and ears opened. It is a complete and total shift in how you perceive reality. So what's the big takeaway here? This isn't just some interesting language lesson. This whole framework changes the concept of resurrection, from something we just passively wait for, into something we can actually experience ourselves.
So let's wrap it all up. Thanatos, or death, is really a metaphor for a state of spiritual ignorance. Egeiro is the action, it's the verb for awakening from that state. And Anastasis, resurrection, is the incredible result, the personal, ongoing process of your own consciousness waking up to the light of truth. You see how this reframes everything? Suddenly, resurrection isn't about waiting for some far-off future event. It's about the here and now. It's about those moments in our lives where a little bit of light breaks through our personal darkness and our understanding is awakened. So the real question isn't when the resurrection will happen, but maybe has yours already begun?